I'm here in the Peacock Theatre, Dublin, with Colin Teevan, a playwright and translator. Colin, good afternoon. Thank you for this interview. Can you tell me about yourself for people who don't know who you are?
Well, I'm a playwright, translator. I've worked widely in, I suppose, British and world theatre, National Theatre London and West Yorkshire Playhouse in Britain, but I also collaborate a lot with international practitioners like Hideki Noda from Japan and Pablo Ley and Josep Galindo from Catalonia and Catherine Hunter, who I'm just about to start my third piece of work with in the last 2 years at the Young Vic. I suppose I write drama, I write original drama, I translate drama, I adapt pieces of work for theatre, and I also lecture on theatre.
We've just been here in the Peacock watching a play of yours called, well, the reading of a play called How Many Miles to Basra. Why has this been shown today?
Well, I mean, I was just called by the Abbey a few months ago asking if they wouldn't mind, if I'd be interested in them doing a rehearsed reading of the play as part of a season to commemorate, I think it's the 60th year of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the United Nations. And they had read my play, How Many Miles to Basra, and I understand that they'd looked through a lot of Irish writers' work and found that there wasn't many of them who were kind of engaging, I suppose, in international political and human rights issues in their work. And they came across this play, which was first produced on BBC Radio 3 and then subsequently at West Yorkshire Playhouse in Leeds.
And what is the play about?
The play is, well, it's a kind of a bit of a Russian doll of a play, because it's I suppose on one level it's the story of a kind of military misadventure during the invasion of Iraq, during the first few weeks of the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And it concerns a group of soldiers who attempt to rectify a wrong and return or rectify a situation having accidentally shot a Bedouin at a checkpoint. They attempt to convey the blood money he was carrying to release his wife and children. However, it all goes horribly wrong, but they are accompanied by an embedded journalist. And it then, on another level, it concerns her attempt to tell the true story as she perceives it. And I suppose it considers issues of what is actually the truth when it comes to war. Can there be a single truth in the reporting of war? And what was quite interesting was this was commissioned by BBC Radio as the invasion was happening, and I had access to a lot of their journalists, their embedded journalists. And as I was writing it over the turn of 2003-04, the Hutton report came out, and actually the play itself became sort of caught up in the whole paranoia that surrounded the publication of Hutton. So for the stage play, in one sense, BBC didn't want me to go too far into the media side on the radio, so on the stage play I was able to expand that kind of media, the relationship of the BBC and the nature of that, the war that the BBC and the government fought over the reporting of the actual reporting of the reasons for the Iraq War.
Mm-hmm. The play, just watching it, I mean, the in-depth knowledge that you seem to have of young British soldiers out in Iraq who were bored out of their tree at one stage looking for action, and then how there was a wonderful line about how when you're in the Dole office looking at the brochures, they don't tell you that you see men in twigs. They don't tell you that you're going to be looking at your best mate with his arm blown off, or whatever. How much research did you have to go into to do this?
Well, I mean, I think every project I work on, I mean, whether it's translating an ancient Greek text where I would have to go back to the kind of original text, and that involved one type of research. On this text, I mean, I was very lucky in that this is part of the project, was that I worked with a lot of embedded journalists, the journalists who were embedded during the invasion of Iraq from the BBC, like Jonathan Charles and Andy North, and then, and they also reread the text for me to sort of make sure that all the journalist aspects were accurate. I rang the BBC, I rang the British Army Media Relations, and they told me where I could go, and they strongly advised me not to be writing it. But through friends of friends, actually, I was put in touch with several soldiers who'd served out there, and they were more than happy to help out, and were really terrific. And when it came to the stage show, they came and trained our actors as soldiers, and provided a lot of really that kind of convincing detail. But I mean, as for how soldiers relate to each other, I think if you've gone to a Dublin all-boys school, it's probably much the same. I just made an educated guess that it's much the same.
You can never know. Your plays follow, just from reading your bio there, you went from this, I think, to doing Don Quixote. The year after?
Yeah, I did Don Quixote and Peer Gynt, literally opened the same night. One National Theatre Scotland, one West Yorkshire.
And I also saw a play called Missing Persons as well. We have the truth that happened in Iraq. We've got the theme then of madness that runs through Don Quixote, and madness as he perceives it, and then Missing Persons. Do you feel a responsibility on bringing the truth out? Because that's really what the play is about.
I would not be so arrogant to say that there is such a thing. It's not the playwrights. Why playwrights are no wiser than the rest of us, in the sense that they don't know truths that other people don't. They know how to construct dramas where you can actually explore those. So in one sense, I do think the theatre has a duty to explore the world that we live in, and explore the political and social assumptions that we make in our lives. And I mean, I live in London, but I mean, I know Dublin is quite insulated from, and I certainly know with Ireland, this great neutrality is also, I think, a way of not having to explore one's complicity. That we are all actually complicit in what's happening in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I suppose that is what I'm interested in exploring. I'm not, and I think it does behove theatre to do that, but it also, I mean, it must be more than that. I also get very frustrated with British theatre that sort of wants social issues. It's not that's the job of newspapers or documentaries. I think it's exploring human relations within the greater socio-political relations to really try and push the potential for understanding our nature, and it's a strange thing. I mean, I don't think it's theatre's job to propose answers. I think it's its job to propose almost problems, and by looking at the individual or the character's response to those problems, perhaps we all learn.
If people are interested in finding out more about your work, or seeing actually one of your plays, where are you?
At present, there's a play of mine, Amazonia, running at the Young Vic. In February, we start rehearsals. So mid-March, there's a play I've written about Afghanistan, which opens as one of the season at the Tricycle. They've commissioned 10 plays about Afghanistan, from the Great Game all the way to the present day. In March also a new play opens at the Young Vic as well, and then in April, May, my adaptation of Peer Gynt comes to London, comes to the Barbican. So
wow, you're a busy man.
I've got a busy start to the new year.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
That's very impressive.
Well, thank you.
That's me done for that, so thank you for watching.